This is chapter 3 of Godzilla, creepypasta. So, I was still pretty shook up from the last level when I started Trance. Trance's map music did nothing to ease the tension. As for now, to describe it, have you ever heard the theme from Videodrome? That's the closest thing I can think of it to compare to. I checked to see who the new monster was, and it was Orga, a monster who didn't make his film debut until the year 2000, appearing in a game made in 1988. So much for my theories about Trance and Ballroom. There's no way this game was made in 1988. Those guys at Toho may be smart, but I'm sure they couldn't see that far into the future. If they could, they never would have gotten Warner Emmerich the rights to make a Godzilla movie. No, this had to be a hack of some kind, which just opened up even more questions. Who made this hack? When? And how? And most importantly, why? The why was the question that bothered me. The most. My immediate assumption was to think Billy did this to pull a joke on me, but that couldn't be right either. Billy didn't know how to make a ROM hack, and if he did, he'd probably just do something simple and stupid like replacing all the monsters with curly drawn useless. Billy had amazing game editing skills, and a serious dark stake in his imagination that he never told me about. He couldn't have made this. Is it even possible to put a hacked ROM into a cartridge? Aside from all that, my eye was drawn to a new icon on the map, a question mark. I was really curious as to what it did. I'm sure you're also curious, so I'll explain the quiz levels. Now, since this was when they start appearing, there was one of these pro map from here on, and they always appeared near the start of the map. When you start a quiz level, you appear on a screen like this. As you can see, there's a question at the top, a yes and a no button, and an assumption in the center. I refer to the emotions as face. Real creative, I know. And for convenience, I refer to a face as one asking the question. The music for the quiz level was a track, usually in the game. It's the one that plays when you try to use your Junadora cheat and get sent to unplayable level. Face asks you 12 yes or no questions, and you move your monster to the buttons for your answer. When you answer the questions, disappears and face changes expressions for about 8 seconds. Then he goes back to neutral, and a new question comes up. There was no time to limit, nor any right or wrong answers. Face has no respect for the player's personal boundaries and will sometimes ask deeply disturbing and personal questions. For example, do you like hurting people? Have you ever killed anyone? Have you ever been hurt by a family member? Other times he would ask questions like either my number is stupid, is the sun hot, is water wet, or just flat out ridiculous. Does your dog like the president? And maybe once per quiz, Face would ask a question about the game. With one expression, Face's expression changes seems to have no effect on the game, except for introducing what the game creator thought of your answer. References rarely make sense. At first, I thought that they were randomly generated. The questions never followed a pattern. Face never stayed on the same subject for more than 2 questions. Earlier on, there were questions that made Face up to something. Only to then ask some stupid garbage. Here are the expressions of the face that I saw while playing. I'll separate them into two categories. The expressions I understood and the expressions I didn't. First of all, the expressions I understood. Number 1, neutral, his default expression. Number 2, angry. If you try to attack face his expression, he changes his mind, but nothing else happens. Number 3, sad. Number 4, happy. Number 5, sick. And number 6, mentally face made this expression when you're being a douche. You'll see what I mean later. And number 7, surprised. And number 8, loved. Number 9, annoyed. And number 10, confused. Number 11, guilty or hurt. And here are the others. Two of these only appear once. Number 1 and number 12. And I suspect they might have been in jokes from the creator. Their respective questions. Do you like ice cream? And are you a tough guy? Ask the questions in the first quiz. Luckily, I had a notepad and pen handy. I have problems remembering things, so I often carry one around to jot things down. And sometimes I doodle in it when I'm bored. So when the first quiz started, I thought I'd record what happened, so I'm glad I did. Here are the first series of questions. My answers faced reactions. Quiz 1. Number 1. Do you like the game? Yes. Reaction happy. Number 2. Are you afraid? Yes. Yes. Are you over 18? Yes. Do birds have teeth? No. Is peanut butter good? No. Does the moon rotate? Yes. Have you had a job? Yes. Do you like hurting people? No. Is the sun hot? Yes. Do you like dogs? Yes. Is the president good? Yes. Does your dog like the president? No. Now that I've explained all that, time for gameplay. After the quiz level, I tried the new green temple icon first. Wow, maybe this is the game. Maybe the game was so weird. One of the designers was clearly drugged out of his mind. Jokes aside, I was quite impressed by the graphics of this level, as they were. But I hate those creepy, blank, staring statue faces. The music had a hypnotic Indian tech vibe to it. There were 2 new enemies in this level: a flying ghost, a type with thing to a trunk, and a bat with the horse skull for a face. They appear to be random, but I was lucky to screen cap them both. Then I proceeded to a blue mountain level, experiencing another nice, calm stroll. I took my time walking through, and I was completely taken by surprise when this happened. Muga came speeding towards me and took off quite a bit of health with his tentacles screws. It only took me 2 minutes to kill him without having to worry about a time limit. But the boss monsters never showed up during the scrolling levels in the normal game. I was worried as to what the rules this game would break. After another blue mountain stage, it was time to fight Notverse, whose replacement was one of the most bizarre things in the game. This strange creature attacks you by kicking and also opening up his chest and firing heat-screating missiles. I still don't get it. The missiles were sometimes a pain to deal with, but I found out you could tail whip them out of your way. The Notverse was probably the easiest of the monster replacements. The same could not be said for Not-Able. Apparently, the source of of the horse bats and not hidden was the most rather difficult monster to fight yet. Mostly because of his special ability, he could shriek and summon a small swarm of those horse bat things. I know there's only 2 in the screen cap, but every time he did this, about 10 would arrive. The owl took advantage of the disruption and attacked twice as fast as the horse bat was flying around. Once that annoyance was over with, I went through a green temple level to kill some enemies to restore my health, and increasingly none of the horse bats showed up after Not Hidden was killed, and that was when I got an idea. If killing all the monsters makes the red face show up, what would happen if I avoided fighting Orga and go? So I gave that a try. The game told me there were no monsters there when I tried to start the base level, and immediately afterward, the game took control of my Godzilla piece and moved it in front of Orga. My little trick didn't work, so I tried to prepare myself for another chase, but first I had to beat Orga. The fight with Orga confronted another thing. Whoever creature hacked this was clearly a Godzilla fan, not only because they picked a monster like Orga, but because they actually impaired something that happened in Godzilla 2000 in a really neat way. Orga's primary attacks were a punch and a heat beam from his shoulder cavalry, but once you had got him down to half health, he did something new. He would expand his jaws and try to swallow Godzilla, in the process stealing your health energy. But doing so, he gave himself a new weakness. Firing a heat beam in his mouth would take a different 4 bars of his life meter. With that weakness revealed, I soon beat Orga, and despite how much I hoped otherwise, the red face appeared on the map where the base was, and the music stopped. I readied myself as best I could. I started the level, and seeing that it was basically the same as the first, I didn't waste a millisecond before I started hustling. I soon encountered obstacles in form of the ground tile, suspended in the air. Most of them you could jump over or destroy. Others you had to crouch under. After about 40 seconds into, I heard the horrible bellowing roar and saw this spider beast following close behind me. Stacks of obstacles barely slowed it down. It would back up and charge its way, then smashing its jaws into bits. It was a smaller way out. It would expand its jaws and swallow them. I was afraid, but with fast thinking and faster button pressing, I escaped him yet again. I felt really excited, and so I laughed and said, "Not this time." I decided to screen cap a celebration. But when I said that sentence, just before the level ended, the monster did something that made my blood run cold. It looked at me. The wave of mortal terror overtook me again, and I'm sure as hell wasn't laughing anymore. I took another screen cap of the next level title right before I rushed into the bathroom to splash some water on my face and to take a pee that I nearly failed to contain when that thing looked at me.